Welcome to my latest chilling tale. What if your phone began ringing with calls from an unknown number, each one revealing disturbing and unsettling truths about your life? This story takes you on a journey through my terrifying experiences with mysterious phone calls that changed everything. Brace yourself for a deep dive into a world where every ring brings new horrors and revelations. The story. I first noticed it on a quiet Tuesday evening. My phone rang with an unfamiliar number flashing across the screen. Annoyed by the interruption, I answered, but no one spoke. I was about to hang up when I heard a faint, chilling whisper, "I know what you did last summer." Shivering, I dismissed it as a prank, but as days passed, the calls grew more frequent and disturbingly accurate. The caller seemed to know everything about my life, my secrets, my fears, my past mistakes. Each call revealed something more unsettling, turning my ordinary world into a nightmarish ordeal. The first call seemed innocent. I was told about an event from my childhood that only my closest family knew. It felt like a twisted coincidence, but as the calls continued, they started touching on more personal and darker aspects of my life. The caller revealed hidden truths and unspoken fears, each detail more disturbing than the last. One evening, the call was different. The voice on the other end was familiar, yet unrecognizable. It described in vivid detail a scene from my homey room I thought was secure, but the caller seemed to be watching me, observing every move. I felt a growing sense of dread, wondering how someone could have access to my private moments. The calls escalated quickly. They were no longer just disturbing revelations, but were becoming threats. The caller began to taunt me with the possibility of exposing my deepest secrets. Every ring of the phone made my heart race, each message a new terror waiting to be uncovered. I tried to trace the number, but it was always untraceable. Desperation grew as I searched for any clue to the caller's identity. Each call seemed to push me further into a corner, revealing more about myself than I was willing to confront. My personal and professional life began to unravel as the caller used the information to manipulate and control me. One night, the phone rang with an urgency that sent a chill down my spine. The caller spoke with a tone of finality, revealing a horrifying truth: one of my loved ones was in danger. Panic-stricken, I rushed to find them, only to discover the caller's message had been a cruel trick, intended to break me. As the calls persisted, my world became a series of endless, horrifying revelations. I began to question reality itself, unsure if the caller was an omniscient presence, or just someone with disturbing insights into my life. Each call left me more fractured, my mind a maze of fear and paranoia. Eventually, the calls stopped. The silence was deafening, and the relief was overshadowed by the trauma they had inflicted. I never discovered who was behind the calls or why they had targeted me. The experience left me with a lingering fear of the unknown, a reminder that some secrets are best left undiscovered. I share this story not just to recount my experiences, but to delve into the eerie possibility that someone might be watching, listening, and waiting to reveal the darkest corners of your life. The calls may have stopped, but the memories linger, a constant reminder of the thin line between the known and the unknown. As time passed, I hoped the nightmare was over, that the tormenting phone calls were nothing more than a dreadful memory. But I was wrong. The shadow of those calls lingered, and my life, once invaded by an unseen tormentor, had become a constant reminder of the horrors I had endured. Months after the last call, I still found myself glancing nervously at my phone. Every ring sent a jolt of fear through me. I tried to regain a semblance of normalcy, but the paranoia never fully left. I started avoiding phone calls, fearful of what new horrors might be waiting on the other end. My relationship strained under the weight of my incessant anxiety, and I found myself increasingly isolated. One particularly cold evening, as I was attempting to relax in my dimly lit living room, my phone rang again. My heart pounded as I glanced at the screen. The number was unknown. I stared at it for a moment, my hand trembling as I picked up the phone. A familiar, chilling voice greeted me. "I knew you'd answer." The voice was unmistakable, and I felt my stomach churn with dread. This time, however, the caller didn't reveal any new secrets or threats. Instead, the voice seemed to be toying with me, almost amused by my reaction. The call lasted only a few seconds, but the message was clear: the torment wasn't over. Desperate to end this cycle of fear, I sought help. I visited therapists, private investigators, and even attempted to use advanced technology to trace the calls. But every lead turned up empty. The caller had vanished as mysteriously as they had appeared, leaving no trace behind. I tried to move on, focusing on rebuilding my life. I moved to a new city, changed my phone number, and even disconnected my landline, hoping to distance myself from the past. But no matter what I did, the shadows of those calls haunted me. I couldn't escape the sense that I was being watched, that someone knew every detail of my new life. One day, as I was settling into my new apartment, I found an old box of personal items from my previous home. Among them was a dusty photograph of a group of people I barely recognized. I turned it over and noticed a handwritten note on the back: "You'll always be part of our story." A cold chill ran down my spine. The handwriting was familiar, and the message seemed to be a direct taunt from the caller. I realized with horror that the photograph contained faces I had seen before, faces of people who had somehow been involved in my torment. They were watching me, and their reach extended beyond the calls. In a frantic search for answers, I delved deeper into my past, examining every detail of the events leading up to the calls. I discovered unsettling connections between myself and individuals who had been part of my life long ago, people whose lives had intersected with mine in ways I had forgotten or overlooked. The more I investigated, the more I uncovered a web of deceit and manipulation. It became clear that the calls had been part of a larger scheme, one that involved exploiting my fears and insecurities. The realization that I had been a pawn in someone's twisted game was both terrifying and humiliating. I confronted my fears and decided to face the source of my torment head-on. I tracked down a few individuals who had been involved in my life's darker moments, but each encounter only led to more questions and cryptic messages. It seemed that the true mastermind behind the calls was always one step ahead, orchestrating every move with meticulous precision. As I pieced together the fragments of my past, I came to understand that the calls were not just a random act of cruelty. They were a deliberate attempt to expose and manipulate my deepest fears. The caller, or callers, were experts in psychological warfare, using my own insecurities against me. The experience left me with a profound sense of paranoia and mistrust. Even though the calls had stopped, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching, waiting for the right moment to strike again. I lived with the constant fear that my life was still under surveillance, and that the tormentors could strike at any moment. In the end, the mysterious phone calls were not just a series of disturbing events, but a journey into the darkest corners of the human psyche. They tested my sanity and resilience, pushing me to confront my deepest fears and insecurities. The ordeal changed me profoundly, leaving scars that would never fully heal. As I reflect on those harrowing experiences, I realized that the true horror was not just in the calls themselves, but in the realization that someone had the power to invade and manipulate my life so completely. The shadow of those calls will always be a part of me, a chilling reminder of the thin line between the known and the unknown, and the frightening possibility that some horrors may never truly end.